a real big fan of what she's already been able to accomplish in the spotlight, tremendous spotlight. And I also think that she's going to adjust to the pros better than people think she is. You know, everybody wondered if Aaliyah Boston would, and look what she did. Aaliyah had good strength when she came in. She came from an outstanding program. She was smart. She great work ethic, and Clark has all of that too. You know, when you watch Clark, you think, how does she hit those threes from the logo? You know, how does she make those great passes? She's physically strong. She's got great strength in her legs, in her core, and in her hands. And so I'm expecting her to have an impact on the WNBA.
Linn Dunn didn't just throw Stephanie White under the bus. She hit the gas, reversed over her, and left tire marks all over the Fever's coaching philosophy. The front office drama in Indiana just went from messy to code red. And it's not just about egos anymore. This could change everything about Caitlin Clark's future in the WNBA. You've got one of the most electrifying players the league has ever seen, and somehow they're managing to make her look ordinary. Fans are furious, executives are subtweeting, and the entire system is starting to crack in real time. This isn't just another locker room issue, it's a full-blown organizational meltdown. And if Indiana doesn't fix it soon, they're going to waste the best thing that's happened to them in a decade? Let's break down the chaos. When the Indiana Fever made their offseason moves, it looked like they were finally done rebuilding. They weren't just collecting talent, they were stacking experience. They brought in veterans like DeWanna Bonner, Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and Sydney Colson. Players who've been deep in the playoffs, players who were supposed to bring toughness, leadership, and a winning mentality. On paper, it looked like a playoff lock. Add Caitlin Clark, arguably the most hyped rookie in WNBA history, and the headlines wrote themselves. Indiana's ready to make a run, but that dream lasted about 2 weeks. What fans actually got was a team that can't decide who they are. One night, they look like they could hang with the aces. The next, they're giving up double-digit runs to teams they should be beating. The chemistry looks off, the rotations feel random, and instead of elevating Caitlin Clark's game, the system looks like it's clipping her wings. The worst part, none of this should be a surprise. When you cram a bunch of seasoned veterans into a system that doesn't match your best players' strengths, you don't get a super team, you get a mess. And that mess is starting to smell. But the Fever's poor play was just the start, because what happened next dragged this drama way beyond the court, and that's when Linn Dunn stepped in.
So I had a film breakdown prepared today, but I'm actually going to go a different direction. This is a rant because we have to talk about the state of this Indiana Fever team, and I'm here to bring the reality to all you Fever fans. This team is not a championship team. They're not a championship team. They're nowhere near close to a championship team because every team that is a championship team can play defense. This Indiana Fever team has no defense, and that's like the farthest of their problems. Their offense looked really bad today, and Caitlin Clark obviously didn't shoot the basketball well, but I'm not going to blame this loss on Caitlin Clark, even though obviously they would have won if she would have shot the ball well. My whole thing is you were up when Caitlin Clark wasn't shooting the ball well. You had a double-digit lead in that first half while Caitlin Clark was clanking every single three. She was 2 for 9 from the field, and you were still confidently beating this Aces team. The reason you lost was not because Caitlin Clark didn't score the basketball. The reason you lost is because you stopped doing what was working, what works for the Indiana Fever.
Let's get one thing straight. This isn't just about wins and losses. It's about what you do when you're handed a once-in-a-generation player and somehow find a way to make her look average. Caitlin Clark isn't just another promising rookie. She's the kind of player who reshapes a franchise the moment she walks through the door. Elite shooting range, elite vision, elite basketball IQ. She's not just playing the game. She's reading it in real time, 3 steps ahead of everyone else. And what does Stephanie White do? She runs a motion offense that sucks the creativity out of the room like a vacuum. The problem with this system isn't just that it's boring, it's that it's designed for teams that don't have a Caitlin Clark. It's a structure made to help role players get looks, to create flow when no one can create on their own. But when you've got a player who can break down defenses, hit logo threes, and deliver no-look dimes in traffic, you don't put her in a cookie-cutter setup, you give her the wheel. Instead, Clark's been reduced to a pass-and-wait piece, expected to flow into an offense that doesn't recognize what she does best: improvising, reading the floor, and making magic happen on the fly. And let's be clear, this isn't about her having an off night. Clark was cold from the field in that Aces game, and the Fever still had a double-digit lead. That tells you the problem isn't her shortage, that once things start slipping, the system doesn't let her fix it in Iowa. She was the engine, the brain, the trigger. Everything ran through her, and the results spoke for themselves. Record-breaking performances, packed arenas, back-to-back title runs. Now, she's being asked to play like she's just another guard. That's not development, that's sabotage. And it's starting to look like Linn Dunn agreed, because her next move didn't just stir the pot, it cracked it wide open. It only took one sentence, one post for the whole thing to explode. Linn Dunn didn't tag anyone. She didn't name names, but the message, it was loud and clear. You can't expect players to execute what you don't drill in practice. 2, the casual fan. It sounds like harmless coach speak, but to anyone paying attention, it was a direct hit on Stephanie White. A veteran front office figure like Dunn doesn't throw around coaching advice publicly unless she's trying to send a message. And the timing couldn't have been more deliberate. That post came right after another embarrassing loss. The offense had looked completely lost. Players were standing around. Clark was visibly frustrated, trying to make something happen in a system that was holding her back. And then boom, Dunn drops that line. You don't need to be a conspiracy theorist to read between the lines. This wasn't about execution. It was about a coaching staff that's not preparing the team to win, about a system that doesn't make sense for the talent they have, and about a growing divide between the bench and the boardroom. And let's not forget, Linn Dunn isn't some random exec. She helped build this franchise. She coached this team to a championship back in 2012. She knows what winning basketball looks like. And when she starts publicly throwing shade, that's not just smoke, that's fire. The message was simple. If you're not putting Caitlin Clark in a position to succeed, someone will call you out. And that someone might be sitting just a few floors above you. But Dunn wasn't the only one speaking up. The fans were next. And what they had to say, that's when things got really ugly. If you want to know how bad things have gotten in Indiana, forget the scoreboards. Look at the comment sections. Fever fans aren't just frustrated, they're furious. And it's not just about losses anymore. It's about decisions. It's about identity. And it's about why the most exciting player in the league looks like she's stuck in basketball quicksand. They're questioning everything from the offense to the coaching to the contracts. One fan flat out asked, why are we paying Katie Lou Samuelson $180,000 while Caitlin Clark's being turned into a glorified decoy? Another said, the fans are turning against Stephanie Whitehand. It's only June, and these aren't casual viewers. These are die-hard season ticket holders, people who've stuck by the Fever through years of rebuilds, roster turnover, and bottom-of-the-league finishes. If they're ready to give up on the coaching staff, that's not noise. That's a warning shot. Because in sports, once the fans lose faith, it doesn't matter what the front office believes. You start seeing empty seats, silent crowds, and sponsors backing away. And right now, the Fever are teetering on that edge, wasting momentum, goodwill, and the golden opportunity that Caitlin Clark gave them. This isn't just bad PR, it's a missed moment. You've got fans finally paying attention, national media covering every game, and a superstar ready to light it up. And instead, the conversation is about why the offense looks like a traffic jam. And the worst part, this could have all been avoided, because the numbers, they don't lie, and they paint a brutal picture of just how much the Fever are holding Clark back. Let's drop the opinions for a second, Dan. Just look at the numbers. Because if you really want to know what's wrong in Indiana, the stats make it painfully clear. Offensive rating with Caitlin Clark on the floor, 107.5. Offensive rating with her off, 82.2. That's a 25-point swing in the world of basketball analytics. That isn't just a gap, it's a canyon. It tells you one thing. This team completely falls apart when Clark isn't the center of the offense. And it's not just about scoring. In a recent win over the Liberty, Clark was directly responsible through points and assists for over half of the team's total offense. That's not a system working. That's one player dragging an entire team across the finish line. So what does Stephanie White do with this generational floor general? She pulls the ball out of her hands. She puts her in a system built on structure and predictability. She turns her from a creator into a Kagan, then wonders why the machine keeps breaking down. It's like watching someone buy a Formula One car and then driving it in rush hour traffic. The truth is, Clark isn't just the engine of this offense, she is the offense. And every minute that the system treats her like just another piece is a minute wasted. Not just for her stat line, but for the entire franchise's trajectory. And what's wild is, this isn't new information. The front office knows it. The fans know it. The analytics scream it. So why hasn't anything changed? Well, maybe it's because Stephanie White is trying to copy-paste a system from a different team, a different roster, and a very different star. And that mistake? It started long before Clark ever put on a Fever jersey. Here's where things really start to unravel. Stephanie White didn't walk into Indiana with a blank slate. She walked in with a blueprinter system she used with the Connecticut Sun, a system that got results. In Connecticut, there's just one problem. That system wasn't built for Caitlin Clark. It was built for a different roster, with different strengths, different priorities, and zero players like her. In Connecticut, the motion offense worked because it had to. They didn't have a generational point guard who could bend defenses with her eyes and bury logo threes like They had a solid team that needed structured ball movement to survive and thrive. So White took that formula and copy-pasted it into Indiana, like it would magically work the same way. But Indiana doesn't have the same pieces. What they do have is Caitlin Clark, a player so gifted she makes the impossible look routine. And instead of building around her, White is forcing her into a system that strips away everything that makes her elite. It's like asking a five-star chef to follow a microwave dinner recipe. Clark doesn't need a rigid playbook. She needs freedom, space, tempo, the kind of environment where she can read the floor, make the right decision, and punish defenses for blinking. Instead, she's being taught to pass and stand, to screen and reset, to wait for a good shot created by someone else. And here's the kicker: Clark proved at Iowa that she doesn't just survive in a free-flowing system. She dominates. Lisa Blunder handed her the keys and said, "Go!" The result, record-breaking numbers, national spotlight, appointment television. Every time she touched the ball, White saw all of that. And still, somehow, she thought the better move was to put Caitlin Clark in a system built to make everyone feel equal. But basketball isn't about equality, it's about maximizing talent. And right now, the Fever are using Clark like a highly paid role player instead of the franchise-altering star she is. And Linn Dunn, she's not the only one raising eyebrows anymore. Because when the front office starts firing warning shots, the fans are lighting torches. Change isn't just inevitable, it's overdue. Asterisk, asterisk, this isn't just a coaching issue anymore. It's a full-blown power struggle. Linn Dunn was supposed to take a back seat this season. She moved into a senior advisor role title. That sounds polite, but usually means we're phasing you out. But based on her recent public comments, she's not phased out at all. She's watching every play, every press conference, and every bad decision, and she's starting to speak up. And here's what that really tells us. The front office isn't unified. You've got the coach running one direction and the executive suite watching it all fall apart, biting their tongues. Until now, when an exec with Dunn's resume starts subtweeting the head coach mid-season. That's not a side comment. That's a warning shot. A shot that says, we see what's happening and we don't like where it's going. And if there's one thing front offices hate more than losing, it's looking like they got it wrong. Let's connect the dots. Stephanie White is stubbornly sticking to a system that clearly isn't working. The fans are turning on her. The star player looks frustrated. And now, the veteran architect of your franchise is going public with doubts. This isn't just a bad stretch, it's a crack in the foundation. And unless someone steps in to align the vision fast, this is going to collapse under its own weight. The real question now, who blinks first? Does Stephanie White swallow her pride and adapt to what clearly works? Does Linn Dunn push for a bigger role at Ghana, even a coaching change? Or does the organization stall out completely, too scared to make a bold move while the window of opportunity slams shut? Because let's be real, this isn't just about internal politics anymore. Other teams are watching, other coaches are paying attention. And if Indiana doesn't figure out how to unlock Caitlin Clark, someone else eventually will. At some point, this stops being about play calls and defensive schemes and starts being about identity. Because this isn't just a struggling team. It's a franchise standing at a fork in the road, trying to decide what it wants to be. They embrace the most electrifying star they've ever had and build a system around her. Or do they keep trying to force her into a philosophy that clearly doesn't fit? The truth is, this goes deeper than basketball strategies, a test of how much an organization is willing to trust greatness. You don't get players like Caitlin Clark often. Players who shift the culture, bring millions of eyes to your team and make people care about a franchise that's been off the radar for years. She isn't a piece of the puzzle. She is the puzzle. And the more Indiana tries to make her adapt to the system, instead of adapting the system to her, the more they risk losing the one thing that makes them relevant again. Other teams are watching this unfold like hawks. Because if the Fever fumble this, someone else will gladly pick up the pieces. There are franchises with coaches who would give Clark the freedom she needs. Systems designed to empower, not restrict elite players. Cultures that elevate stars instead of micromanaging them. Sure, Caitlin Clark is locked into her rookie contract for now, but dysfunction has a way of poisoning everything. If the culture around her starts to feel stale, restrictive, or even adversarial, don't think for a second that word won't get out. And once a player like Clark starts wondering whether the grass is greener somewhere else, it's already too late. This isn't just a basketball decision anymore. It's a statement about how the Fever view leadership, talent, and the future of their franchise. Do they build around the player who brought national attention, jersey sales, and a real chance at playoff basketball? Or do they double down on a system that's already showing signs of collapse? Because at the end of the day, you either trust your talent or you lose it. And right now, Indiana's walking a dangerously thin line. Asterisk, the Indiana Fever are standing on a cliff, and they don't even realize how close they are to the edge. They've got the kind of player teams dream about for decades. A once-in-a-generation talent who can shift the entire league, fill arenas, and change how people talk about women's basketball. But instead of unleashing her, they're managing her, limiting her, fitting her into a box she was never meant to be in. And now, the cracks are visible for everyone to see. Linn Dunn's tweet wasn't just a shot at a coach, it was a public signal that the people in charge don't agree on what this team should look like. Fans are calling out contracts, rotations, offensive schemes, everything. And the one thing they all agree on, this isn't working. Clark isn't the problem. She's the opportunity. But the longer the Fever try to force her into a broken system, the more they waste the very thing they should be. Building around dot and trust me talent like this doesn't wait forever. The WNBA is more competitive than it's ever been. Other teams are adapting, innovating, building around their stars. If the Fever don't start doing the same, they're not just going to lose games, they're going to lose Clark, dot. And once that happens, there's no fixing it. So the question now isn't just about strategy, it's about vision. Do the Fever want to win with Caitlin Clark, or do they want to prove they can win without her fingerprints all over it? Because history doesn't remember teams that misused greatness. It remembers the ones that recognize that Tan built something unforgettable around it. What do you think? Should Stephanie White change her system more? Should Indiana change its coach? Drop your thoughts below. Smash that like button if you're tired of seeing elite players wasted. And subscribe if you want the real story behind the WNBA's biggest headlines, because this drama, it's just getting started.